Thank you.
So as I was saying, I want to invite us to just take a moment and just take a few deep breaths together. All right. So this is just our opportunity to not just prepare on logistics and all of that stuff. We know you're getting flights and hotels and all the things, but just really to prepare our hearts, our spirits, and our purpose and why we're going to be there. So this is not just another convening. It's not just a site visit. This is going to be a journey into the hearts of our nation's unhealed history and into the spirit of the community still fighting for dignity, for justice, and for liberation. And so earlier this year, the ECFC staff had an opportunity to visit Montgomery. It was my first time there. We wanted to go in advance of our meeting, and we wanted to just better understand what it means to be in that place, and how we, as the staff, how you as funders might walk through history in a way that's both respectful and also transformative. And so we stood on sacred ground. We did. I felt my ancestors there. We walked the blocks where Dr. King lived and preached. We visited the Harris House, my soror, where the Freedom Riders gathered. We stood in the Legacy Museum. We saw, we felt the continuum of slavery to mass incarceration. We listened to the children of the we listened to a child of the civil rights movement tell her story from her kitchen, where her parents once planned boycotts and dreamed of of full freedom, full equality, full justice. And we also saw what the economic violence has done to communities just blocks away from many of those landmarks. And so we saw that the fight for racial justice isn't just in the past, it's in the present. And so we saw that there's so much hope there, and so much opportunity. We met people like Michelle Browder, who is is building museums and wellness centers and monuments from the ground up, and often without the resources that she deserves. But she refuses to let Black maternal health and reproductive justice and the lives of Black women, and women in general, in rural South, in the city, be ignored. So we left Montgomery not just moved, but I think we were transformed. And we want you to experience that too. And we hope that you will experience that. And we really want to just be open about what Montgomery will teach us. We want to prepare ourselves, prepare to feel the things that we don't expect, prepare to confront histories, many of the much of that history that's left out of the textbooks. We want to prepare to hold space for the grief and for the glory. Amen. If you're a church going folks, for the glory. And prepare ourselves to ask questions as funders. What is our role in ensuring that history doesn't repeat itself? Because as we will hear and see, it is in some ways repeating itself. We want to think about whether it's in our grant portfolios, our institutional practices, or the narratives that we amplify. And so today we're going to begin our preparation. We're going to talk about those, some of the things that you're going to see together. And we're going to reflect and we're just going to ground ourselves in the why. Why Montgomery? Why now? Why us? Because this, again, is not a trip just about performative philanthropy. I want to just reiterate that. It's about proximity, it's about legacy, it's about power, and most of all, it's about accountability to children and families, the ones that we care about and love, and to the movement that made it all possible for us to even sit and do this work today. So I just want to thank you for being with us. I want to thank our facilitators, and I'm going to turn it over to them to introduce themselves.
I'll just take a moment really quickly to say that the way that we've designed this pre-session is to break out into tracks for the site visits, and all of our local facilitators are with us, including our local facilitator and consultant and advisor and friend, Dawn Owens, who is helping us shape our overall meeting. So we'll have them all introduce themselves so you can hear a little bit about them, and then I will give some instructions for the breakouts. And with that, I will turn it over to Dawn. Thank you.
Hi, good morning, good afternoon, everyone. I am so excited about this opportunity, and working with the team at ECFC has just been a complete joy. We had a wonderful site visit here in May, and I'm just looking forward to you all being here and us getting to share more about our city and share more about the history here. We are just very excited. I think the team of facilitators that we have brought together are just excellent, and you will enjoy this time with them and getting to know them as well. I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Christine Spear to introduce herself next.
Wow. Hello, everyone. And after that, Ms. Harris, you just got me messed up a little bit this morning. All emotional with those awesome words. I appreciate that introduction to this experience, and I'm grateful to be a part of it. I am Dr. Christine Spear. I'm a retired educator here in Montgomery, Alabama. I've been in Montgomery probably about 35, 36 or so years, but I am from Selma, born and raised in Selma, and grew up during the civil rights movement, participated in integration in, I think it was 1968. I was 7 years old. And so that was quite an experience. And the crazy thing is, you all are going to visit McRae Gaines Learning Center. And McRae Gaines Learning Center is now located in Cedar Park Elementary School, where I participated in integration the first year that it opened. So, and I can't remember, this may be the first time in about 30 years or so that I've been back to that school. So that's going to be interesting for me. McRae is an amazing school. It opened in 1978, I believe. I was a junior in high school. It's been around a long time. And it's about more than education. It's about more than academics. So when you go there, when you hear from Ms. Moss and the other staff there, and you see the babies, they're ages 12 months to, I think, age 7 and 8. And you will understand that their purpose has been the same since the first day they opened. And it's about affirming the identity of those babies. It's about nurturing their full potential and breaking down those systemic barriers that have been holding these children back. And it's about empowering those children to have confidence in themselves and believing in themselves. And she starts with them very young, letting them know that they can be leaders. She told me, I spoke with her a few days ago, and she talked about how a couple of days during the week, they dress up like they are the future Kamala Harris's and Obama's of the world, because she wants them to believe that they can grow up to be leaders and be successful. So yes, they provide the academic support for those babies, but it's more about emotional support. It's more about breaking down barriers. It's more about helping them to understand that there are no limits where they are concerned. And it's about gathering and garnering support in the community and from funders and whoever else would like to support that school to help them meet those goals. So I'm looking forward to that trip. And I hope when we get into the breakout session, you all will talk about what you want to learn and what you want to gain from this experience, because we're going to be taking some notes so that we can make sure that we meet your needs. Thank you. Do we want to pass it to Nikita?
Good afternoon, everyone, or good morning. I keep forgetting everyone's not in the same time zone. Such an honor and pleasure to be with all of you today as we're preparing for what we are confident is going to be an amazing experience. Just to echo off of what Kiami spoke to, that this is not about performative philanthropy, nor is it about performative learning, which is why Dawn has put so much thought into designing an experience that is immersive, that it's comprehensive, that it gives all the opportunities to um, see, experience, hear, feel, most of all, um, in a way that, some, may have had the opportunity to do before, but for some, this may be the very first time. So, we are committed to making the absolute most out of this experience. I think each of us as facilitators will gain just as much as everyone else gets out of this experience. Just because we live here, you know, it's not lost on us, what all of this means, and the work that there is yet to do. So just to tell a little bit about myself, I'm Nikita. I have lived in Montgomery for 22 years now. I am a product of the Great Migration. So my parents are originally from Alabama. They moved to Iowa. So not, one of the typical large cities, the Detroit, Chicago's that a lot of Black families moved to, but my parents moved to Davenport, Iowa, actually. So my dad already had some brothers there, and there was, he was able to get a job working for Oscar Mayer. So when they married, moved to Iowa, had me, my siblings. So I grew up in Iowa, and then we moved back to Alabama. My mom wanted to be closer to her mom, making sure that we took care of her. Um, so we moved back to North Alabama. And then I spent a few years after I was married living in Michigan, and then returned here to Montgomery and have since been here for 22 years. So my background has been largely in helping organizations transform their cultures, to kind of create spaces where people can optimize their potential, where we're centered on employee well-being. So I've done that in leadership roles for over 20 years. Um, and just prior to starting the company that I run now, uh, was an executive with a credit union for almost 10 years. Um, so within that role, I led doing some of the CDFI designations that allowed us the opportunity to provide resources to some of the underserved and rural areas that don't typically have a lot of access to financial services. So did that work for close to 10 years, but then I had what, I feel has just been a calling that wasn't where I was designed to be, that I wasn't on the path that I was, I basically fulfilled my mission in that space, and it was time for me to move elsewhere. Um, and so what I've kind of found in the course of working within organizations, corporate organizations, what have you, is this thread of being able to see pieces of the problem, but that the structures, the organizations themselves don't necessarily have the capacity or the mission to actually see the problem whole. And so that's where it had started to always feel like I was kind of working downstream of the actual problem. and needed to kind of take those steps to get further and further upstream. And so that's why I'm hopeful, in terms of like public and private sector partnerships and collaborations at the community level, where action and change are easier to facilitate, working outside of the pre-designed structures. So what I will say for me in facilitating the economic justice track is that, we will visit the Rosa Parks Museum. We will visit the Freedom Rides Museum, and then we will visit the Harris House, which is where Dawn is right now. But I think what you can kind of expect from that experience is that it's kind of a blend of some culture, curated sites, but then I think it will also give you an added appreciation, respect for the lived experience, so that we'll be able to kind of touch on and really, hear firsthand, as Kiami spoke to, we'll hear firsthand from someone who lived the experience. And getting that, that direct experience will allow us to kind of dive into, what does that mean? Like, what does that look like? Because, as we're trying to solve problems, and we're trying to get to the source of an issue, if we misdiagnose the problem, then we're going to prescribe the wrong solution. So I think it takes that blended and that layered approach of understanding the full aspect of a thing, to really get to the heart of what's going to make change possible, but also make it sustainable. And so, we'll dive into some of the concepts around the wealth gap. We'll think about some of the works of the economist Shetty, and some of his thoughts around, the source of upward mobility and what makes it possible and what are the barriers to that. And then, we'll go beyond the numbers as well, because again, I think that's important to kind of think about it from the very individual, personal kind of level. So we'll think about, beyond the numbers, we have to recognize and have an appreciation for the full story. So, numbers aren't always going to tell you everything. They're not going to tell you the full story. So if you have two people running a race, and they both finished the race in the same time, but one had to run uphill and one was running downhill, the numbers aren't going to account for, the differences. So those are just some of the things that we'll dive into on the economic track, and I'm really looking forward to it. As I said, we always gain just as much as everybody else from the experience. And so looking forward to everyone who's a part of this, and everything that each of you will bring to the experience. Because it's not just about the sites, it's about what we all bring in terms of, our stories and our experiences and our learnings from this. So I'm excited. Thank you all. And I will toss it over to Tiambe.
Happy Wednesday, everyone. I am Tiambe Barnes, and I hail from Prattville, Alabama, and Prattville is not very far from Montgomery. I bring an array of background. My first job out of college, I was a child care outreach organizer for one of the premier child care advocacy organizations in the South. I'm also a higher education professional, and I work in philanthropy. And so I have this really different kind of lens of community organizing, higher education, but more importantly, and just community in general. And I think about this as an opportunity that we can see what's really happening. Like, how do we influence funding? What does it look like? How do we move people in a way that we ground so that people recognize that childcare is an economic engine? And not only is it an economic engine, it is the thing that helps our children to grow. It is the thing that makes sure they have the good start so they can grow start. Those kind of things like that. And so I think this opportunity, because my session, the part that I will be facilitating is power and movement building. This is it's who I am, because we have to have the conversation. And I can speak from the philanthropy piece sometimes, that people don't realize that we can just pour money into something, but if that money is not strategic or it's not a long-term investment, what does it look like? How is it going to impact the people on the ground? And I know there are other conversations we're going to have, so I won't hold us up, because last time in my group we were still talking, and we had to go back to the main group. But this is an exciting time for me. I tell people all the time that I love full circle moments. I love when I'm able to bring who I am from my child care background, from being an organizer. And also, I forget that I worked at a child care facility and the YMCA throughout college, but then becoming an organizer, working in gender prevention, making sure that folks have what they need, then working in higher ed, and also philanthropy. It's like, boom, all encompassing one. But this is a really good space for people to learn that how Alabama can shape the country, but also how we have the opportunity to shape this field and make sure the voices are heard and seen in this movement. Thank you.
Thank you so much, everyone. There's no doubt that you are the right combination of local facilitators to help us shape some of these conversations. And we are going to share the recording of this introduction with other folks that want to meet more than one of you if they didn't have a chance in the last session or the next one. So I'm going to just pause the recording here while I give instructions for the breakouts.